great pleasure to welcome today a woman who has written really an inspirational book. It did so well over in the UK last year, I believe, and now it's going to be published this week, and it's called The Cancer Whisperer, Finding Courage, Direction, and the Unlikely Gifts of Cancer. We're joined today by Sophie Sabbage from, I believe you're over in the UK today, aren't you, Sophie?
I am in the UK. It's dark here.
Well, thanks for joining us. I know, you're as we talk now, it's probably evening over there, right?
It is. It's darkness has fallen, and it's evening time, but I'm very happy to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have a chance to talk with you. I read through the book. First of all, obviously, you seem to be doing okay. Am I right about that? I hope I am.
I'm doing well. I still have cancer.
Right.
Cancer does not have me, but I have cancer. But at the moment, I'm stable. I've got one tumor in my lung, and I had more than they could count at one point, so I'm doing well.
Just for the audience listening, it was lung cancer you were diagnosed with, and that's what the book's about, kind of, dealing with it, and I guess that's what kind of made this book so popular in the UK, right? You wrote this about a year or so ago, and it really took off incredibly over there, didn't it?
It took off far more than I imagined it would. I wrote it in 6 weeks. I popped it on Amazon. I self-published it at first, thinking it would reach a few like minds, but it went to bestseller really quickly in several categories, and then it got picked up by an agent and a publisher here. And I didn't know quite what a sweet spot it would hit until that happened. Partly it's my memoir. It's about how I have dealt with a devastating diagnosis. But it's also about how to navigate your way through the emotional and psychological challenges that come when you get a diagnosis like this. And I think that was missing. I certainly didn't find a book about that when I was looking. And I happen to be qualified to write about that. So, it's been a surprise and a delight to me that it's made a difference to people over here.
I think so many people that go through what you went through. There's a lot of information out there, maybe medical information, but as you talk about in the book, not a lot on maybe the emotional end or how to kind of deal with it yourself, right? That's as much of a challenge as the physical part, isn't it?
It is as much as a challenge, and it's a mind, heart, and body disease, this. The disease is physical, but, I was terrified when I was diagnosed, and I nearly died of shock, I think. I literally was dying of fear at one point, and I knew what to do with my fear, and even with all that I know about what to do with fear, it was a steep climb. And all around me, I watched patients in deep fear and shock, not knowing what to do with their fear and shock. So... And also, if you don't get hold of your fear, then your fear gets hold of you. And it will make your decisions for you if you don't get yourself free of the fear so that you can take charge and you can respond and you can navigate your way forward. And that is no easy thing.
Yeah, that's obviously the fear of dying. Everybody has that, but the fear maybe, like you talk about, leaving family behind or maybe being incapacitated for a long time. Death is, I guess, third or fourth on that list, right? That's not the biggest fear, right?
The biggest fear for me was leaving my daughter, who was 4 at the time, and remains the biggest fear and grief for me is the prospect of leaving her by a long, long way. I think for me, I was less afraid of dying as I was of leaving people behind and of not having done the things I wished I'd done.
We'll talk a little bit about, obviously getting that diagnosis is shocking. What kind of led you to start to write about it? Did it take a few weeks, or what was the impetus for that?
I think I started writing about 2 months into the whole process. So I wanted to update my friends and family, and I couldn't answer all their emails. But also, maybe it's very a British thing, but we do stiff upper lip in Britain.
That's right.
And we don't really go public about our fear and our vulnerability. And I would sit in the waiting room, and you could feel the fear stalking the corridors of the hospital. And it would sit like a fog in the room, and no one was talking to each other, and no one was connecting, and no one was crying. And I found it weird. And I thought, I need to give people permission to be vulnerable and frightened. And so I started writing a blog initially, and it really kind of grew from there. People started reading my blog and responding to it, and 10 months later I started writing The Cancer Whisperer.
And that, I'm sure, and you talk about it in the book, kind of distract you, I guess, in some way, right? I mean, obviously, you're always thinking about what you're going through, but I guess that distraction helped you, didn't it?
It
By
wasn't
writing
so
about
much
it.
a distraction. It was two things for me. Firstly, I'd wanted to write since I was 10 years old. I always wanted to be a writer. So it was one of the dreams I'd given up on in my life, because I did other great work that I loved, but I'd never fulfilled my true desire to be a writer, and that's what I am now. I've been commissioned my next book, and that's been an incredible thing for me.
Right.
So I started writing because I deeply regretted not having done that before. And the other reason was because writing helps me process my fear and my anger and my grief. I write myself into clarity sometimes. I mean, there are tools in the book that are more practical than that for non-writers, but it can be, you can write your way through darkness and into the light, and that's what I did.
And you talk in the book also, I think you mentioned it earlier, about taking control not only of how you deal with it, but the medications or the treatment the doctors prescribe. Sometimes, I think you talk about steroids as one of them. You didn't want to take them because the side effects of that could almost be worse, right? So you have to really take control of your...
That's right. I mean, I think it's very important to say you need to listen to your doctors and be highly respectful of what they recommend. At the same time, you need to take charge of your treatment, and you need to discern the best choices for you. And I think that's a way you can not be a victim of this disease, and you can take your power back when it seems like you're powerless. So I certainly did that, and I think it's important to educate yourself and become a specialist in your own care. And there's quite a lot of evidence that patients who do that, they do better, they fare better. So, yeah, the steroids was... I didn't want to take them when I was offered them at the very beginning, and my sixth sense said don't do it. But I needed to go and back it up with reasons, so I came back to my doctor and said this is why I don't want to do it, and we discussed it and agreed together. So it wasn't a kind of defiant thing, it was an instinct and then a mutual decision, actually.
Yeah. You've gotten, I imagine, a lot of feedback on your blog, and now the book over in the UK, and now hopefully here in the US. I'm sure you'll get a lot of feedback as well. Do you get mostly emails, or how do people respond to you?
I get emails through my website, and I have a Facebook page called Sophie Sabbage, the Cancer Whisperer, so I have followers there who comment there. I had a lot of emails the first year, but it became quite unmanageable. And I also now have a closed Facebook group, so for people who actually have cancer, I've created a group where they can get emotional support. And in that group, I answer one question, and hundreds of people get the same answer, so it's much more manageable for me.
Yeah, great. Well, the name of the book is The Cancer Whisperer, just being published this week here in the U.S., and we've been talking with Sophie Sabbage today. And Sophie, once again, give out your website and how people can contact you and get more information on the book.
You can buy the books out now. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. Most book outlets in America are selling it now. You can find me at sophiesabage.com. You can subscribe to my site, and there are various things you can get for cancer from that, and follow my blog, or I have to follow my blog, and you can find me on Facebook.
Great. Say B-B-A-G-E, just to spell your last name.
Yeah, like cabbage, like cabbage.
That's right. Well, Sophie, really pleasure to talk with you. And again, you're doing great work helping others, and we're thinking and praying for you. I know you're going to come out okay in this, and hopefully we can talk to you when the next book comes out. Please let us know.
I would love to.